Hi everyone, welcome back to Go Local Live. I'm Go Local News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in for the 4 o'clock show for news and politics. If you caught us at 3, would like to thank the folks from Revelfest coming in to talk about this weekend celebration. But as we do most every Tuesday, take the opportunity to check in with Jennifer Lawless at the University of Virginia National Men's Basketball Champions. This time last year, UVA, first #1 seed to get ousted in the first round. Jennifer Lawless goes to UVA. They win the national championship. Jennifer, thanks for joining us.
No problem. I think there's absolutely a relationship. If there's any doubt, this should have cemented it.
And other big winnings as well. Want to talk about the big news today. Of course, Attorney General Bill Barr testifying before Congress. And of course, all that was pretty much on anyone's lips was the Mueller report. Now, Attorney General Barr did make the proclamation that he will release a redacted version of the report in short order. What's the reaction been to his offer?
I think the main reaction is how redacted is redacted, because you can imagine a very quick release of a report that gives us virtually no additional information than what his 4-page summary provided. Or you could imagine a redacted report that's generally helpful and really just blacks out issues of national security. And so the promise doesn't really mean anything. It's all going to be in the delivery. So at this point, I think Republicans are hoping for high levels of redaction. Democrats are hoping that he's just going to give it to us because basically no one's even following this story anymore. And the American people are just waiting.
So, explain the politics of it, if you will. If it is a heavily redacted report, do you think it's more fuel to the fire for Democrats to say there's something being hidden here?
It does. If it's heavily redacted, what that's going to do is suggest that things are being hidden by the Justice Department. That will, I think, generate even more fuel behind the investigatory authority of the House. Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler will continue down their paths and basically suggest that we've learned nothing from the Mueller report and we have to rely on Congress to conduct their own investigations. In the elections, that could play well for some Democrats, but I think it also is a catch-22, because what the president and the Republicans can say is, look, we spent 2 years and millions of dollars. There's nothing in there, and the Democrats won't take no for an answer.
I mean, was this anticipated all along, that even with the release of the report, of course, just the 4-page letter from Barr to Congress, and now the fallout, is it the continuation of the Mueller industrial complex for the purposes of politicization?
It might be that. I think the reason that we weren't fully expecting this, though, is when you think back to 1998 and 1999 and Ken Starr's investigation and the Starr report where Monica Lewinsky became a household name. There were plenty of things that I'm sure the White House would have preferred to be redacted, and they were not. I think that there was hope among the Democrats that as awful as it was for Democrats at the time, was going to set the standard for expectations here. But, that was a long, long time ago, and partisan polarization has gotten even worse. So it seems like that is no longer the standard.
So the next step, of course, is waiting to see what this redacted report looks like. How soon? I mean, as soon as it's transferred to Congress, do we expect it in the public domain soon thereafter?
I think part of that will have to do with how redacted it is. So if it's not heavily redacted, the Democrats are going to want it right out, right away. If it's not heavily redacted, the Republicans are probably going to put up a fight.
So let's talk a little bit about the current White House. A lot of shakeups in the last few days between...
No one works there anymore.
No one works in the White House anymore. The departure of Kirstjen Nielsen from Homeland Security, of course, on a different matter, the director of the Secret Service, and then Trump rescinding his nomination of Ronald Vitiello for Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. Senator Chuck Grassley, kind of issued a directive, was like, stop cleaning house. So can we talk a little bit about the senator's reaction to the current administration, and does it hold any weight?
Well, I think we'll put aside for a second whether it holds any weight. I think it taps into this broader concern among Republicans, which is, look, things just worked out pretty well for you as far as the Mueller report is concerned. The Democrats are fighting among themselves for the White House. why would you call any additional attention or generate additional problems when right now your life looks like it could be going pretty well? I think Grassley's also concerned about protracted fights over nominees to be confirmed to these positions. And, that allows the Democrats to ignite a whole series of issues that the Republicans would probably not talk about. And then on top of that, putting the cynicism aside, the reality is that there are half a dozen cabinet positions that are currently being run by temps. And, we don't have a temporary workforce. The temporary workforce doesn't become permanent on purpose. There are confirmation practices because the people with these positions are supposed to withstand a degree of bipartisan scrutiny. So, I just think that it's demonstrating that Donald Trump is once again eschewing traditional norms. And here national security seems to be involved.
And you mentioned national security. Let's talk a little bit about, obviously, Kirstjen Nielsen and, of course, his own concerns for who will head up ICE as well. Let's talk a little bit, there is some speculation that he's even striking an even harder line moving forward on the issue of immigration. I mean, what's your take on that, and what's the reaction been to some of that analysis?
Well, I think the reaction in general is, what, this doesn't make any sense, because one day we're closing the border, the other day we're opening the border. The next day we're closing the border again. Kirstjen Nielsen is in, she's out, she's in, she's out. She had a very, very rocky relationship with the president for the beginning of this administration. Just a month or so ago, it seemed like that relationship had taken a turn. But as Jeff Sessions and as others have learned, once you're out, you're never back in. I do think that Donald Trump is making a very clear statement that the 2020 elections are going to be about base politics, and that he wants to fire up the people who voted for him in 2016. And immigration did him very well at that point in time. But it is a risky move because people now see, and there are visuals that the Democrats can use to indicate that he's not at all interested in any sort of compassion or empathy when it comes to border security. Whether that sticks or not is going to be up to whoever the Democratic nominee is. But I would say that the environment is probably a little bit less friendly to Trump, even among Republicans, when it comes to immigration than it had been, because we all have those images of kids in cages.
And looking again towards 2020, I believe it was this time last week, you said if we're still talking about creepy Uncle Joe Biden at this time this week, SNL skits aside, he might not be running. Has he weathered the week enough to be seriously considering a run?
I initially thought he had, and then he made light of the allegations, which suggests that maybe he doesn't get it. Time will tell. I've thought all along that once all of these other candidates post their fundraising numbers, we'll have a sense of whether he's getting in or not. There's a reluctance to enter when he would still be compared to people that have been raising millions and millions of dollars. And so I think May 1st is probably the latest that he would get in, but it could very well be even as early as April 16th when all of these fundraising totals become public. If he doesn't get in by then, I think it's done.
Okay, keeping an eye on Joe Biden's potential to run for 2020, what are we keeping an eye on in the coming week?
Well, obviously, the extent to which this Mueller report continues to move through, I think that's going to be very important. I also think we need to assess what's going to be happening at the Department of Homeland Security, because Donald Trump may very well have to fire the person who's next in line for the job in order for his hand-picked temporary person to get that position. And so the politics at these agencies becomes yet one more way for Democrats to suggest that maybe Donald Trump doesn't have the nation's best interests at hand. So we'll see. And I just did see my personal favorite scandal of late, which is the college admissions scandal. It seems like Felicity Huffman may be off the hook and pled guilty, but Lori Loughlin is facing additional charges. So I'll obviously be focusing a lot on that as well.
Well, you do wear several hats, academia and politics as well. Jennifer Lawless down at the balmy national champion University of Virginia. As always, appreciate your taking the time to Skype in.
Of course.
Okay, we're going to let Jennifer go. We're going to get back with a